you know, in this country and in this world right now, there's some issues with shortages on a lot of things. There's supply chain issues. There's issues with finding materials for certain things. There's a glass shortage. There's inflation, rampant inflation for all kinds of different products. And where this is hitting really hard is the electronics and computer environments, like or businesses, corporations. You see that car companies can't make new cars because they don't have chips to put in them. You see video game companies who just came out with like new generations of systems and nobody can find them anywhere. You have people mining crypto like crazy and screwing up the environment and using every single bit of chips that they can get their hands on to mine crypto. Basically, we're having a hard time with the electronic sector and the technology sector as a whole because of this. So we're going to talk about that a little bit, guys. We're going to go over this article about Commerce Department survey uncovers alarming chip shortages. This will affect everything. Everything. Think about it. Think about, do you ever go, cell phones, do you ever go one day without using something that has a computer chip in it? Like, do you ever go more than a few hours without using something that has a computer chip in it? This is how we communicate with each other. This is how we do our work. This is how we run our cities. This is how we use our transportation. All of these things run on electronics, run on computers. And so we're in deep dog shit if we can't fix this issue. Anyways, moving on. The United States is facing an alarming shortage of semiconductors. A government survey of more than 150 companies that make and buy chips found the situation is threatening U.S. factory production and helping to fuel inflation. Oh yeah, it's a reciprocal thing. The inflation screws with the chip prices fuel inflation, so on and so forth. Gina Raimondo, the Commerce Secretary, said in an interview Monday. She said findings showed a critical need to support domestic manufacturing and called on Congress to pass legislation aimed at bolstering U.S. competitiveness with China by enabling more American production. This is something that I learned just recently. Like something like 80% of the semiconductors and the computer chips that are made in the world are made in Taiwan. What happens if like the situation between Taiwan and mainland China kind of blows up a little bit and fucking, China like fucks with Taiwan or blows up some of their warehouse? What the hell would happen? We would lose 80% of our chip production. So that's one of the issues that we're trying to fix. It's alarming, really, the situation we're in as a country and how urgently we need to move to increase our domestic capacity, Raimondo said. The findings show demand for the chips that power cars, electronics, medical devices, and other products far outstripping supply, even as global chip makers approach their maximum production capacity. While demand for semiconductors has increased 17% from 2019 to 2021, there was no commensurate increase in supply. A vast majority of semiconductor fabrication plants are using about 90% of their capacity to manufacture chips, meaning they have little immediate ability to increase their output, according to the data that the Commerce Department compiled. Not only that, I'm not sure if they're going to mention this later in the article. I have not read through this all the way yet, but there is also a problem with mining of the materials that's needed for these chips. We're kind of running out of some of this stuff. It's harder to find silicon. All of the things that we need to produce the chips is fewer and farther between, and which is, I think, a good reason that we should continue with the space program, if anything, is to mine asteroids so we can develop the things that we need to develop to progress technologically in the world. Of course, we got to make sure who's in control of that technological advancement isn't going to create Skynet or some shit like that. So The need for chips is expected to increase as technologies that use vast amounts of semiconductors like 5G and electric vehicles become more widespread. The combination of surging demand for consumer products that contain chips and pandemic-related disruptions in production have led to shortages and skyrocketing prices for semiconductors over the past few years. So basically, it's a perfect storm of bullshit that's made this happen, right? We've got shortages in supply of materials. We have the pandemic causing sickness and supply chain failures. We have inflation. We have all of these different things that are combining into a perfect storm that are really, really screwing things up and are making it impossible for these things to be manufactured at a quick enough rate. Not only that, but it's raising the price of them and making it very, very hard for the working class people to take advantage of any of these technologies. I'm not, I'm not the poorest person in the country, but I'm definitely not the richest by far. I struggle. I live paycheck to paycheck. I'm slightly food insecure. Sometimes some months are better than others, but it's definitely not something that I don't have to worry about. Like if I'm like basically, I like many others in this country. I'm not just speaking of myself. I like many others in this country are like one crisis, one bad accident, one small medium-sized mistake away from losing fucking everything, right? Like that's the economy that a lot of people live in right now. And so, I have a pretty decent computer for this, and this is first world problems right here, but the card I've got in the computer is a 1660 Ti, all right? And that card costs twice as much to purchase now when we built this computer than it was when the chip was first, or when the GPU was first released, right? So newer graphics cards that are supposed to go for somewhere around the $400 or $500 range are going for $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 on Amazon and other sites from scalpers. It's ridiculous, man. And then you've got the crypto guys that are hoarding all the cards too, which makes it harder for just simple gamers and people like that to take advantage of these things. And so if my computer, my graphics card took a shit on me for whatever reason, I would lose this opportunity to be here with you guys. I would not be able to replace that anytime soon. And it would essentially end my foray into live streaming. So, it's something that I'm concerned with. Definitely this kind of stuff right here. Chip shortages have forced some factories that rely on components to make their products, like those of the U.S. car makers, or to slow or suspend production. That has dented U.S. economic growth and led to higher car prices, a big driver of the soaring inflation in the United States. The price of a used car grew 37% last year, helping to push inflation to a 40-year high in December. 37%. Good Lord. I'm glad I bought my car before COVID hit, or started purchasing it. I'm still making payments. But let's see here. The Commerce Department sent out a request for information in September to global chip makers and consumers to gather information about inventories, production capacity, and backlogs in an effort to understand where bottlenecks exist in the industry and how to alleviate them. The result of that survey, which the Commerce Department published Tuesday morning, reveal how scarce global supplies of the chips have become. Here's where we get in the meat and potatoes, guys. This is where the scare comes in. This is where we need to start worrying, is what they're going to be talking about right here. Derpshot said, I paid mine off 2 years ago and I hope to drive it for another 5 to 8 years. Yeah, hopefully, man, because it's like they don't seem to be dropping it in price anytime soon. You could sell your 2018 Hyundai for $3,000 more than you bought it for. See, that's what I'm talking about. There's obviously something wrong in this country if that's the kind of shit that's going on. Let's continue. The median inventory among buyers had fallen to fewer than 5 days from 40 days pre-pandemic, meaning that any hiccup in chip production because of a winter storm, for example, or another coronavirus outbreak could cause shortages that would shut down U.S. factories and once again destabilize supply chains, Raimondo said. We have no room for error. None, she added. To help address this issue, Biden administration officials have coalesced between a sprawling bill that the Senate passed in June as an answer to some of the nation's supply chain woes. The bill, known in the Senate as U.S. Innovation and Competition Act, would pour nearly $250 billion into scientific research and development to bolster competitiveness against China and prop up semiconductor makers by providing $52 billion in emergency subsidies. Even then, China's still going to be the leaders in this because they're so far ahead of the game right now. It's not like chips are easy to make. These aren't something that like anybody can just throw together like a fucking peanut butter and jelly sandwich. It's a very technical, very delicate process. And so I'm hoping that this money that's going into it can address that as well and make sure that we're not screwing things up and making shoddy equipment, shoddy chips. Yeah, scary stuff, guys. Momentum on the legislation stalled amid ideological disputes between the House and Senate over how to direct the funding. In June, House lawmakers passed their own narrower bill, eschewing the Senate's focus on technology development in favor of financing fundamental research. But administration officials, led by Raimondo, have begun prodding lawmakers behind the scenes in an effort to help bridge their differences to swiftly pass the bill, emphasizing the urgency of quickly signing solutions into law. There's no getting around this. There's no other solution, Raimondo said. We need more facilities. The Commerce Department's survey found that it takes companies twice as long in some cases to procure certain in-demand chips, sometimes as long as a year. Survey respondents said they also did not see the supply-demand mismatch in the industry dissipating in the next 6 months. The shortages have affected larger legacy chips, which are necessary for auto production, as well as the most advanced chips required to power technologies like artificial intelligence. Yet, somehow Facebook's getting all that stuff for their supercomputer for Meta or whatever. Something like 16,000 GPUs are going to be put in that thing by NVIDIA. It's insane. Nobody else can do that. You need trillions of dollars to be able to do that right now. Raimondo said that she had spent an enormous amount of time talking about the shortage to chief executives, some of whom had personally taken to hunting around the world for a small number of chips crucial to their supply chains. She added that the survey also revealed that worrying extent to which the United States is reliant on Taiwan for the most advanced chips. See, this is what I was talking about. Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company has been the contract manufacturer choice for many companies, which may design their chips in the United States but turn to Asia to manufacture them. China considers its claim to Taiwan non-negotiable, and it has been taking an increasingly aggressive military posture towards the island, potentially putting U.S. supply of advanced chips at risk. Exactly what I was saying. Even a blockade could stop them. In a briefing with reporters Tuesday, Raimondo said that the survey had also uncovered unusually high prices for semiconductors that are sold through brokers, and the Commerce Department would be investigating those practices. Yeah, there are scalpers all over the place online doing this kind of thing too, with cards and things. It's a big market for them as of right now. The Biden administration has set up an early alert system to notify government of industry and pending chip shortages and convene company leaders to try and address the issue, among other actions. It has also welcomed industry investment while acknowledging that any new construction of chip manufacturing facilities in the United States will take several years and will not provide an immediate remedy to any of the shortages. On Friday, Intel announced that it would invest $20 billion in a facility in Ohio, which would contain 2 chip factories and directly employ 3,000 people. Construction of the first 2 factories is expected to begin this year, but production will not begin until 2025, Intel said. Because it takes so fucking long to set up these factories, which have to be completely sterilized, and the environments are crazy for these types of things. So it's something that is going to take a while. It's going to get any of this set up, it's still going to take a while. But we need to not stop with just one place in Ohio. Rich people, fucking, I implore you, you guys don't do any fucking thing worth any value to the working class. The best you could do is stop inflation and supply chain issues and stuff like that from happening by investing large amounts of money into chip manufacturing in the United States. It needs to be done. We need, and that could set us up in a better position to supply the rest of the world too. It could help us in a major way. And because I'm a socialist, I think they should all be worker co-ops. But that's my opinion. That's doesn't necessarily need to be that case right now, but that's my opinion. I think that would be good. And yes, they definitely need to have an educated workforce. It's not like making widgets. It's not like your regular machine shops. This is very, very, very delicate, very, very technological work that needs to be done. So yeah, sorry about all the bad news today, guys.